Wind does not knock in the Wyoming high country. It claws. That morning it tore at Lena Crow's cabin like it wanted her bones. She stood knee-deep in snow, bracing a fence rail with her hip, hammering a spike with stiff hands that no longer felt like hands. The metal slipped. The wind ripped the board free and flung it into a drift. She did not chase it. Behind her something shrieked, not the wind. Feathers exploded into the air. Lena turned and ran. The coop door hung crooked. One chicken flapped in blind panic. The other was already gone. A gray blur tore through the snow with white feathers clenched in its jaws. The coyote stumbled in the drift, thin-ribbed, wild-eyed. Lena did not shout. She grabbed the shotgun from beside the cabin door, raised it without thinking, and fired. The blast shattered the morning. The animal dropped. Snow turned red. For a moment there was no sound at all. Then the wind returned. She walked to the fallen coyote and nudged it with her boot. Skin stretched over bone, hunger everywhere. She picked up what was left of her hen and carried it inside. The cabin was small, one cot, one table, one iron stove. A silence she had earned with 2 years of surviving alone. She plucked the bird over the hearth. Her hands were steady. A knock came, not a polite tap. A heavy blow that shook the door frame. Lena froze. No one traveled this pass in winter. The nearest neighbor was 12 miles east. Traders waited for spring. The only men who had ever come uninvited had left bruises and deaths behind. The knock came again. She lifted the shotgun. "Who's there?" A pause, then one word: "Shelter." The voice sounded like gravel dragged across stone. Lena wiped frost from the window with her sleeve. He stood against the wind like part of it, tall, wrapped in furs crusted with ice. Snow frozen into his beard, one arm hanging wrong at his side. Darkness stained his shoulder. Blood. He swayed once. She raised the barrel so he could see it. "Go away." 10, he rasped. He slid a pack from his back. It fell heavy into the snow. He opened it with slow, shaking fingers, beaver pelts, thick, dark, perfect. He held them up with his good hand. 10 prime furs for one night, floors enough. Lena stared. 10 pelts meant flour for a year. Powder, salt, maybe a cow in spring. He staggered again. The wind howled around them. Her finger tightened on the trigger. "Just the floor," she said. "You try anything, you won't leave breathing." He nodded once. She unbarred the door. The wind slammed it wide. He stumbled in and collapsed near the hearth without looking at her. He did not scan the room, did not test the walls. He curled toward the weak heat like an animal seeking it. Lena barred the door and stood with the shotgun raised. He did not move. She cooked broth from the chicken. The smell filled the cabin. He did not ask for any. When she set a thin quilt on the dirt floor 6 feet from her cot, he crawled onto it without speaking. She lay down fully dressed, shotgun beside her. The wind screamed outside. Inside, only 2 sounds, fire crackling and his breathing wrong, wet, heavy. After midnight, he began to thrash. "No," he muttered. "Let him go." His good hand clenched the quilt. His body jerked and a low sound tore from him, not anger, something else. Lena sat up. The shotgun rested across her lap. He was not shouting like a drunk man chasing ghosts. He sounded haunted by something inside him. She did not sleep. At dawn, the cabin felt colder than before. The fire had sunk to ash. He had not moved. Lena rose and crossed the room. She nudged his boot. No response. She crouched, placed her palm on his forehead. Heat, deep burning heat. She peeled back the frozen fur at his shoulder. The smell hit first, rot. The wound was swollen and dark. Shirt stuck to flesh. She could drag him outside, take the pelts. Let the cold finish what fever had started. Her hand hovered. He had kept his word. Just the floor. She stood. Melted snow in a kettle. Poured the last of her whiskey into a tin cup. Laid out sail needles and fishing line from her sewing box. When she pressed the hot cloth to his shoulder, his eyes flew open. He grabbed her wrist hard. His gray eyes were wild. "You're infected," she said. "Hold still." He stared at her, breathing fast. Then slowly he loosened his grip. She cut fabric away. The bullet was still inside. She did not warn him twice. She poured whiskey straight into the wound. He arched. The cabin shook with his cry. She dug. Her knife found lid. He passed out before she pulled it free. She stitched him, wrapped him, fed him broth through cracked lips. For 2 days he drifted between burning heat and silence. On the 3rd morning he opened his eyes clear. He looked at the clean bandage, then at her. "You dug it out." "Yes." "Why?" "You paid for one night," she said. "The rest is interest." He studied her long. "Name S. Rourke Dane." Lena did not smile. "Finish healing," she replied. "Then we'll see what you are worth beyond furs." Outside, the wind began to rise again. He did not leave. On the 4th morning, Rourke stepped outside before she could stop him. Snow swallowed his boots to the calf. His wounded shoulder was bound tight beneath her stitching, but he lifted a hammer with his good arm and struck the broken fence post as if it had insulted him. Thud, thud, Lena watched from the window. He did not rush. He dug through frozen ground with slow, stubborn force. When the shovel struck ice, he shifted his weight and drove it again. No cursing, no wasted motion. By noon, two new posts stood straight against the wind. When he came inside, sweat darkened his collar despite the cold. He ate without comment. When she reached to take his bowl, his fingers brushed hers. He pulled back first. The next day, he patched the south corner of the roof. The day after, he reinforced the chicken coop with scrap timber and wire. Each strike of his hammer landed steady. The sound changed the cabin. It no longer felt like a place waiting to die. That evening, she boiled beans and salt pork. He sat at the table cleaning his rifle. "You ever plan on leaving?" he asked without looking up. "This land is paid for," she replied, "in ways you wouldn't understand." He nodded once. Silence settled again, but it felt different now, full. Later that week, she spoke of her husband, not gently, not softly. "He owed money," she said, staring into the fire. "More than we had." Rourke did not interrupt. "Jasper Kane owns the land office in town. He owns half the saloon tables, too. My husband thought luck would come around." Her jaw tightened. It didn't. Rourke set the rifle down. "Kane ever come here?" "Not yet, he will." The way he said it made her lift her eyes. "You know him." "I know men like him." He leaned back in his chair, shoulders stiff but healing. "They wait until winter, until you're cut off. Then they offer help with a price attached." Lena's fingers tightened around her cup. "He offered to clear the debt," she said quietly, "in exchange for the deed." Rourke's gaze hardened. "And you?" She did not answer. The fire cracked between them. "He'll come when the thaw hits," Rourke said. "Men like that don't forget what they think they own." She rose and cleared the dishes. "You'll be gone by then." He watched her back as she moved. "Maybe," he replied. 2 nights later, the wind died. The cabin felt close and warm. Lena heated water and hung a quilt across one corner to wash. She did not look at him as she stepped behind it. Steam rose, water dripped. Her shadow moved across the cloth. She felt his gaze, not heavy, not greedy, just there. When she lowered the quilt, Rourke sat exactly where he had been, staring into the fire. His hands rested on his knees. He had not moved closer. She lay awake long after that. The next morning, a rider appeared on the ridge. Rourke saw him first. "One man," he said quietly. Lena stepped to the window. The rider wore a thin coat and cheap hat. He did not slow as he approached the cabin. He dismounted without tying his horse, knocked once. Rourke moved aside but kept the rifle near. Lena opened the door a crack. The man smiled without warmth. "Notice from the territorial office," he said. "Claim marked abandoned, 30 days to appear in town or it transfers." He handed her the paper. She read it once, then again. Her hands went still. "Kane filed it," she whispered. The man's smile widened. "He says winter neglect counts." Rourke stepped forward. "She's been here." "Prove it," the writer said with a shrug. 30 days, that's law." He mounted and rode off. Lena shut the door slowly. The paper trembled in her grip. "He can't," she said. "He can't just take it." "He can try." She looked at Rourke. "You're not staying for that." His jaw flexed. "If I leave, he wins easier. And if you stay, they come faster." The truth hung between them heavy. She paced the small room. "He wants me to show up in town alone. Snow still thick, roads barely passable." Rourke folded the notice and set it on the table. "We won't wait 30 days." Her head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "I'll ride in tomorrow, speak to the clerk, delay the filing." "You can't go into town," she said sharply. "You don't know who might be there." He met her eyes. "You don't know who might come here." The next morning, he saddled his mule before dawn. Lena stood in the doorway. "Be quick," she said. He nodded once. "If anyone rides up while I'm gone, you don't open that door." "I know how to hold a gun." "I know." He mounted and rode south. The cabin felt too quiet without the hammer strikes. By noon, she saw 2 riders crest the ridge, not Rourke, too. They rode straight toward her cabin. Lena lifted the shotgun. When the door swung open without knocking, she was already aiming. One man stepped inside with mud on his boots. "Inspection," he said lazily. The other moved. Toward the hearth, Lena did not retreat. "You're trespassing." The taller man smirked. "Mr. Kane sends regards." His hand reached toward her shoulder. The shotgun roared. The blast struck the floor inches from his boot. Wood splintered. Smoke filled the room. Both men stumbled backward. "Next one goes through bone," Lena said, cocking the second hammer. They fled without another word. She barred the door. Her hands shook only after the hoofbeats faded. Late afternoon brought another sound, fast, urgent. Rourke burst through the door, breath sharp. "They've connected it," he said. "Kane and a sheriff from Colorado. He recognized me." The words settled like ash. "They'll ride out," he continued, "with badges and guns." Lena lifted the shotgun again, "Then let them ride." Rourke stared at her. "You understand what that means?" "Yes," he stepped closer. "So do I. Inside the sky darkened. Snow began to fall again, soft, silent, covering tracks. The horses came at dawn, not fast, not loud, 8 of them moving through low drifting snow like a slow storm rolling across the ridge. Lena saw them first through the cracked window, dark shapes spread wide, surrounding. Rourke stood beside her, rifle already in his hands. "Root cellar," he said. "No," her answer came without thought. "This is my land." The riders stopped 20 yards out. One pushed forward, Jasper Kane, broad coat, clean gloves, a smile that did not reach his eyes. Beside him rode a thick-shouldered man with a silver badge pinned to his chest, Sheriff Holt. His gaze locked on Rourke through the glass. He knew. Kane lifted his voice. "Lena Crow, you are harboring a fugitive and interfering with lawful seizure. Step outside and surrender." Rourke raised the rifle. "They'll burn it," he said quietly. Lena cocked the shotgun. "Then we burn with it." A gunshot cracked, glass shattered, wood splintered above Lena's head. Rourke shoved her down as another round tore through the wall. The cabin exploded with sound. Bullets thudded into logs. Snow fell from roof beams. Rourke fired once. A man tumbled from his saddle. Lena crawled to the window and fired both barrels at a rider rushing the porch. The horse screamed and reared. Smoke filled the cabin. "Reload," Rourke growled. She did, her fingers steady now. Outside, Kane shouted, "Light it." One of the men rode forward with a torch. Lena saw the flame, saw it tilt toward her roof. She grabbed the small tin of lamp oil near the hearth. "I need smoke," she said. Before Rourke could answer, she slipped through the back pantry door and into the snow. Gunfire chased her. She ran bent low toward the small shed behind the cabin, splashed oil across the dry hay stacked inside, struck a match. The shed roared to life. Flames climbed fast. Thick black smoke rolled sideways, caught by wind, swallowing Kane's men. They coughed and shouted blindly. Rourke rose in the window, picked his shots through the smoke. Another rider fell, then a bullet tore through the wall. Rourke jerked, dropped to one knee. Lena ran back through the pantry door. Blood darkened his thigh. He tried to stand, couldn't. "They'll push in," he said through clenched teeth. She dragged him behind the stone hearth. Bullets kept pounding the logs. She pressed linen hard into his wound. He gripped her wrist. "Listen," he rasped. "If they break in, they won't." Boots crunched on snow outside. A voice shouted from the tree-line, "Kane." A new line of riders burst from the east. 6 men with repeating rifles leveled across their saddles. At their head rode Harlan Briggs, Lena's neighbor. His voice carried across the field. "You step 1 foot closer and you won't ride home." Kane's men faltered. Holt swung his pistol toward Harlan. A shot rang from Harlan's line. Holt screamed as his arm jerked backward. Chaos shifted. Kane cursed and wheeled his horse. "Fall back," he shouted. The remaining men retreated into the trees. Snow swallowed them. Silence crashed down. Lena's knees gave. She crawled back to Rourke. His face had gone pale, breathing shallow. Harlan burst inside. "We need to stop the bleeding," he said. They heated a blade in the fire, cut fabric, dug out the slug from Rourke's thigh. Lena did not look away, did not flinch. They stitched him, wrapped him tight. Night fell. Rourke burned with fever, then went cold. Lena held him against her chest, whispering into his ear. "You stay," she said. "You stay." Near dawn his fingers twitched. His eyes opened, clouded but alive. Weeks passed. Kane and Holt were arrested in town under territorial charges. Once Harlan's testimony reached Helena, the land office clerk confessed. Kane's filings were voided. Lena received a new deed with her name written clean and black across the page. Rourke healed slowly. The limp stayed, the scar would never fade. One afternoon, the territorial marshal rode out to the homestead. He dismounted by the fence Rourke had rebuilt. "You did the right thing testifying," the marshal said, "but Colorado still has a warrant on you for Holt's deputies." Rourke nodded. "I know. I can hold it off a day," the marshal said. "After that, I can't." That night, Lena and Rourke sat by the hearth. The fire burned low. "You'll have to ride," she said. He looked at her long. "I won't bring them back here." She did not cry. At sunrise, he saddled his mule. Lena stood close enough to feel his breath. He reached for her hand. "I came for one night," he said quietly. "You stayed," she answered. He mounted, rode south without looking back. Spring came, snow melted. Lena planted seed, repaired fence, sold 2 pelts. She slept alone again, but the silence no longer felt empty. Late summer brought a letter, rough handwriting, 3 lines, I am clear, the warrant died with Holt, I am heading north. Lena folded the paper once, held it to her chest. Autumn painted the hills gold. One afternoon, while stacking hay in the new barn Harlan helped rise, a shadow fell across the doorway. Lena did not turn at once, she knew. Boots stepped onto the barn floor. Thought I'd see if the floor is still available, he said. She turned. Rourke stood in clean clothes, beard trimmed, eyes the same storm gray. No chains, no badge behind him, just him. Lena crossed the barn in 3 strides, struck his chest once with her palm. You're late. He caught her wrist, pulled her close. I came back. She pressed her forehead to his. Outside, wind moved gently through dry grass.